Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Effective Resume Thursday. It's February 2nd, 2023. Please note this event is being recorded and is currently live on Facebook. The recording will be on the CareerDFW Facebook page and the Career USA YouTube channel for others to view in the future. By participating in this event, you give consent for your name and picture to appear. Please note that any comments you put in the Zoom chat window will not appear in the recording. For those people on Zoom, if you'd like to enter any questions you have throughout the presentation, please just put them into the chat window. For those watching on Facebook, just put your questions into the comment field. We'll be sure to get those questions answered for you. Also, for those on Zoom, if you'd like to network with everybody else who's on the call today, put in your personal contact information, put in your name, target companies, what you want to do, and your LinkedIn address so people can connect with you, email address and stuff like that. We will have time to review 1 or 2 resumes today live at the end of this presentation. If you would like to submit your resume, you can do so via the chat box. I would delete the header information because this will be on Facebook and LinkedIn or on Facebook and YouTube forever and ever. So, but if you'd like to do that, just send it. You can attach it by clicking on that little paper sign in the bottom right of the chat window where you see that blue arrow, and just send it to Jeff Morris Host. That way it comes to the right person. Okay, let's see here. Coming up next. Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeff Morris. Back in 2008, I started a website called CareerDFW.org, a website to help those who are unemployed in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. In 2012, I launched a second website, CareerUSA.org. I have written a book called What I've Learned About Your Job Search You May Not Know. It is available on Amazon, or if you see me in person, I always have copies with me. Since 2007, I've been facilitating and leading the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. The group's been around since the late 1990s. I'll tell you about our upcoming program tomorrow at the end of this session. And since 2017, I've been a member of the practice interview team. Remember, your resume, your LinkedIn profile, isn't going to get you a job. It's going to get you a phone call. How well you practice your interviewing skills, that's what's going to get you your next job. So for more information about the Dallas Pit Crew, just go to dallaspitcrew.com and you can schedule your free practice interview with them. All right, well, our agenda this morning is we're going to start talking about the ATS system. We're then going to go into, whoops. Hold on a second, I just got rid of something. Sorry about that. Best laid plans, have everything all ready to go, and then I mess it up. Let's see here, I closed it up. Here we go. Okay, so we'll talk about the ATS system. We're going to talk about the one-page bio. We'll talk about a master resume. We'll talk about the key components of a resume, and then if anybody wants to submit their resume, we'll be glad to take a look at that at the end of the session. The point of your resume is you want to be the one to be remembered. What's going to set your resume apart from everybody else's resume? What's going to stand out on your resume that's going to make the recruiter give you a phone call? So first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about some basic resume writing rules that will put you ahead of the game. This is from Judy Podolsky, who's a manager at Coach Connect at the Muse, which is a website all about career research. So her first thing is you've got to avoid spelling or grammar errors. Very important. Recruiters are looking for a reason to throw your resume and move on to the next one. Throw your resume out and look at the next one. What are they looking for? Any kind of error. Any spelling error, any grammar error will get you thrown out. Second thing is she talks about watch about your tenses. You've got to make sure that all your past jobs talk about your past tense, and we'll go into more detail about that in just a little bit. She recommends sending your resume as a PDF file. The reason you want to send your resume to a person as a PDF file is because that way it will always look how you intend it to look. If you send a Word document to me, there's a 95, 99% chance that the printer I have is different than the printer you have. Thus, it's going to cause that Word document to tabs and everything else are going to be a little bit off. So if you're sending your resume directly to a person, always use a PDF file. You've got to make sure it's easy to read. You don't want it to be text heavy where you've got, just line after line of text and there's no white space and no margins. Very important. You've got to be sure to quantify as much as possible. Every bullet point needs to have a result. If you can play that, and we'll talk more about the so what game in just a little bit, but you want to make sure that you can quantify your results. Very important. Number 6, you want to drop, name drop and title drop. If you know somebody in the company, when you send that person an email along with your resume, let them know that you happen to know the vice president in charge of blah, 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 or you know the project manager in charge of XYZ. If you can name drop and title drop, you have a much better chance of getting that phone call and getting a return, getting some positive traction with what you send in. You've got to use your judgment when it comes to creativity. You don't want your resume looking too out of the norm. Here's a great example. My daughter is a UX designer. That's user interface. So what you see on the computer, she's designing what you see. So when she was laid off from IBM after 2.5 years, along with 25,000 other people, everybody in her building, they just let everybody in this building, you're gone. So out she went and prepared her resume, being that she's very creative and everything. She went and put yellow circles and red triangles and blue squares and snazzed it up to make it all cutesy. And when she showed it to me, I said, Alex, that's not going to work when you try to submit your resume for the most part. Oh, Dad, you don't know what you're talking about. No kids think their dads know what they're talking about. So luckily, IBM had paid Right Management to work with all these candidates, and she took advice and took advantage of working with Right Management. And lo and behold, the resume that Right Management recommended was exactly what Dad would have recommended, but of course she wouldn't listen. So, at least she listened to somebody else, even though I've been doing this for 14 years now. I mean, you would think. Okay. Don't list everything you've done. That's not important. Everybody here has done a lot of really, really great things over their career. You don't have to list everything, but what you do have to list is what's important on the job description. The object is to match what you're talking about on your resume with what they're looking for in the job description. You want to be sure to think about the person reading your resume, okay? If you're going to a basic recruiter, there's a good chance they're not going to understand some of the technical terms if you're a very technical person. You throw a lot of technical terms around. They just want to make sure they've been given a job description. They've got a pile of resumes. They're trying to find one that matches, that they can see the connection between the two. That's what's very, very important. And then be sure to think about the specific job you're applying to. Are you really qualified to do what they're asking? I've heard that, different people say if you're over 50%, if you match over 50% of the requirements, you should apply. Other people say if you're over 70 or 80%, that's when you apply. What you don't know is if the person who is, who's looking, the hiring manager, if they actually worked on that job description, was it a job description that just got pulled off the shelf in HR because it happens to fit the title and the pay scale of what they're trying to fill, so that, they feel, well, we're just putting this on here so we can get this job rec in and we can get it approved. It's not that this is exactly what the person's going to be doing. So you never know, that's why it's real important to find that information out. All right, so the first thing I want to talk about here is a resume versus a one-page bio. Okay, a resume says, help me, I'm looking for a job. One-page bio you can use in a lot less situations. You can use it in networking information, networking conversations, information interviews. If you're you're applying for a membership at a organization, educational organization, you can use something like a bio would be very good. The resume focuses on work history details and your credentials, where the bio focuses on major accomplishments and tells me what it is you do, what your expertise is. A resume is primarily a job search tool. A bio can be used in many, many, many different situations. So I really encourage everybody, if you don't have a bio, consider getting one. So let me show you one. We've got three different bios I'm going to show you. So here's the first one. Your bio has your picture on it. So this makes it great if you're having a networking call or meeting somebody for coffee at a Starbucks or something. They'll know what you look like. You put down what it is you're looking for. You list a little bit of your background. You have your professional biography, where the companies you worked at, your education. Up on the second column on the right-hand side, your contact information, make it easy for them to reach out to you. And then some professional achievements and successes you've had over the year. Here's a different format. This one's horizontal, sort of vertical. Now, the biggest difference here is right over, get my mouse over here, is right over here with target functions and target companies, okay? Because these are the jobs you're looking for, and that's fine to put that on a bio, but you got to be very careful about these target companies and about listing those things. And here's why. If I'm applying at Coca-Cola and I send this to somebody and they go, oh, well, I don't even see Coca-Cola on your list of target companies, but you see our competition's on there. Why would I even want to talk to you? Okay. So if you're going to send this to somebody, you've got to make sure that that company's name is at the very top of your targeted company list. Otherwise, I recommend you take this off. Now, this targeted company list is great for friends and family and maybe acquaintances that you've got, but you wouldn't want to send this to your professional contact. Well, you got to be careful how you send this to your professional contacts. Okay. So that's the difference here. I've got both samples that I can put in the chat window for you. So give me a second here and let me get to them. There's one of them, and let's see here. And there's the second one. So if for some reason you can't download them, I'll give you an email address at the end of this that you can ask about. All right, here's a great one-page book, and I highly recommend this book. To me, it's one of the 3 books everybody needs to have in their library. It's called Be Sharp. Make sure if you buy it, get the second edition. And the reason being is that the second half of the book is all about the one-page bio. The first half of the book talks about how do you introduce yourself to somebody. The second half of the book is they've got over 30 different examples of bios and different examples and different layouts and how you can do things. The book's by Minna Sharp and Paula Asanoff. You'll see here's Minna's bio over here on the right. Now, her is a much more slick mode. You probably would never ever do your bio this much or this done, but she's using this because she's an executive coach. She's a coach trainer. She's a public speaker. She's an author. So she has made this more of an advertising slick than just an informational interviewing kind of deal. But I highly recommend the book, Be Sharp. All right, so let's talk about the master resume for a second. I would, by who I see on the call today, I see that, you look like you've probably been working 15, 20 years, maybe 30 years, and maybe you've had multiple jobs. How do you keep track of all that? Well, I recommend you create yourself a master resume. When you start your job search, one of the first things you should do, it could be 10, 15, 20 pages long. It has everything you've ever done since college. And if you did some good internships in college that are relatable, put those on there too. You put the manager's names, you put addresses, the exact dates you were there, all the details. The reason being is that when you find a job description, you take that master resume and then you delete everything that's unimportant. If it's not on the job description, you don't need to talk about it, okay? But what you've done, you've made it easy and you can go, oh yeah, I use that software program. Oh yeah, I've done this before. You don't have to think about something you did 15 years ago that may be relevant in what they're looking for on the job description. So think about doing one. Now, a master resume, if you apply for a job in education or the US government, they want to see everything. They want to know everything you've ever done. So just be aware that this will be, once you do this, you only update it when you get a new job, and then you put on the new roles and what you did, and then you keep on going, and you don't have to go back and think about creating something new every time. All right, so what are the characteristics of a good resume? The goal of a good resume is to make it easy for the applicant tracking system or job screener to determine that you're a good match for the job. How is it that that's going to happen? The first thing is it's got to be formatted correctly. It's got to be formatted for ATS systems because there's over 100 different ATS systems. So you don't know which one they're using most of the time. So you've got to make sure that the details that you provide are generic enough that any ATS system would suck that data in. Your overall length. If you've been working less than 5 to 7 years, a one-page resume is long enough. If you need to go to 2 pages, that's great. I've even seen some people go to 3 pages, half the 3rd page if possible. I'd rather you go to 3 pages than shrink the font down so small, trying to make it all fit and get rid of the margins so your text is from page edge to page edge. So that would be my preference. If you got to go 3 pages, as long as it's meeting what the job description is, as long as you're showing them, this is what I've done, and this is how the successes I've had for the job description. Now, for a number of years, we've talked, there's always that controversy. Do I go back 10 years, 15 years? Do I show them everything? So I've got 3 options here. I'll let you, if you will, in the chat window, please go put in A, B, or C, or on the comment field on Facebook, give me an A, B, or C, and let me know what you think the number of years you should put on a resume. So option A is you show all of your experience. Sounds like your master resume. Option B is you show only the most recent 10 to 15 years. Option C, show details about the most recent 10 to 15 years, plus a section called prior relevant experience. So I'll give everybody a second. All right, we've got 1 answer on Facebook, a few answers on Zoom. All right, well, there is no wrong answer here. You have to do what you feel comfortable with, depending what it is you're doing. When you show all of your experience, if you've been working 35, 40 years, it may show your age, and you may not want to do that, especially if you know the company's a little bit younger. To show only the most recent 10 to 15 years, there's a problem with that. Let's say you're in an interview and you start telling a star story about something that happened 18 years ago, a job that you don't have listed on your resume. You're going to confuse the recruiter, because you're going to say, well, back when I worked for IBM in 1995, I had this example and this is what happened, and here's the result of what it was. They're going to go, IBM, that's not even on your resume. Oh yeah, well, that's more than 15 years ago, and that's why I didn't include it. So that's why I really highly recommend that you put down a section called prior relevant experience. So just list what you've done in the last 10 to 15 years. And then for prior relevant experience, put down, all you need to do is list the name of the company, the job title, and that's it. If you want to list 1 bullet point, you can, but you don't have to. You're just going to list the name of the company and job titles, because by doing so, it gives you permission to mention those when you're in an interview. And you never know why somebody's going to call you. You may get a phone call because of a company you worked for 25 years ago. Oh, I see you worked at XYZ. That may be why they call you, so you never know. So I like prior relevant experience. Clarissa on Facebook asked, if you were a stay-at-home mom for the last 10 to 15 years, what would you do? Well, thank you for being a stay-at-home mom. Thank you for doing that. I'm sure there's things that you're responsible for. I'm not sure what you're trying to do. what your job title is and what you're trying to get, what you want to get back into or what you want to become. But you're going to list prior, and I would just, you're going to list a current job as, you were a stay-at-home mom. I'm no longer responsible for, the kids can drive now. They can get to where they have to go. You're ready to get back in the workforce. Now, that's usually a good thing to put on your cover letter, on a T cover letter, let people know here's why you're back in the workforce and why there's been a long time. But I would list something on your resume. It just says that I have, that I was a stay-at-home mom. I was responsible for raising 2 kids, blah, 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 blah. And I am now ready to get back to work. I'm now ready to get back in the workforce. Verlonda asked in the Zoom chat, do you have an example of a resume with the prior relevant experience? Yes, I do. I will share that with you in just a second. So yep, just give me a second and I'll put that in the chat window for everybody to see. Okay, fonts for your resume. All right, here are the fonts that I like: Arial, Calibri, Tacoma, Helvetica. I like fonts that don't have any serifs on it. Okay, I am not a fan of Times New Roman, Garamond, Calibri or Cambria, because all that does is it adds extra little stuff. It makes it a little bit harder to read. Your default font on a computer is Calibri or Tacoma or Arial. I mean, those are the fonts that are generic for everybody. So I recommend that 10 to 12 point. If you notice Helvetica, look how small the 12 is on Helvetica. It's not a very big font. So just be aware that, you may want to keep using Helvetica 11, 12 to make sure things are big enough so everybody can read it. No fancy fonts, no wingdings. Yes, the last 4, I would recommend you do not use Times New Roman, do not use Garamond, do not use Calibri. Don't use any font that has serifs. You want it plain and simple and easy to read. I mean, if you take your resume and do both, you're going to see what works and what doesn't work. Your margins, you generally want all margins to be 1 inch, top, bottom, right, and left. You want white space. White space is good on a resume. Adding an extra blank line in between things, between jobs, is a good thing because it breaks things up. It makes it easier for somebody to read something. If you have a whole block of text, they're usually not going to read it. They may read the first few words, and if that doesn't grab them, they're on to something else. Bullet points. You can use bullets. I like the bullets that are here. This is the plain little circles, or they're fine. But don't use like a little telephone bullet or a home bullet or a smiley face bullet. Try not to do any of those. I think that will really sort of mess things up a little bit. You can use some bold. You could underline a little bit. You could use a little bit of italicize. I don't like a lot of italics. I think that gets to be very, once again, it's like using one of the Times New Roman Garamond fonts, because it adds a little bit of deep, of stuff to it that makes it not as easy to read. And then lastly, I want to just mention, don't use any text boxes, no headers, no Microsoft Word templates, no shadows, no graphics. You've got to make your resume plain and simple for people to read. If you have a header or footer, a lot of ATS systems won't even see that. So you don't want to do that. Kathy, I see you have your hand raised. What's your question, please?
I really crammed everything into a 2-page resume because I didn't want to go beyond that. And one of the recruiters I sent it to reformatted it and sent it back to me with his white space and 1-inch margins. It went to a 4-page resume.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to read that.
No, but the important thing here is, right, how do we talk about this? All right. First of all, recruiter has done that. Let the recruiter send it, because the recruiter is sending all the resumes to that company in that format. So they understand how important white space is. Now, right, 4 pages is too much. So what's on the job description? Are really all 4 pages that important? Can you eliminate some things from page 3 and 4 that maybe don't show up on the job description. If it's not on the job description, it's not going to be important to them. The only person who really may read the entire resume will be the hiring manager. The recruiter's just going to do a quick glance and go, yep, this person's good enough, and do the initial interview. And if they like you, then they'll pass it along. And that hiring manager may read your resume in detail. But I agree. I think 4 pages is too much, depending on what you're applying to. Like I said, if it's an education or government job, it needs to be that long. So,
Okay,
Kathy,
so about hiring managers reading resumes, I'm a TCU grad that worked in downtown Fort Worth at Tandy for 10 years. And about 3 months on the job, the hiring manager said to me, I don't know how familiar you are with Fort Worth. Well, clearly he didn't bother to read my resume. But
you
on the
don't,
bottom of it.
yeah,
So-
you don't know how busy they are. You don't know what fires are putting out. I know when I would hire people, I read their whole resume and we talk about things, just to see what they could talk about, just because I knew how to interview people. Some people are just trying to fill a chair. That's all they're doing, and they may not read and even understand that kind of stuff. So, Kathy, thank you for the questions. That was a good question. Thank you for the comment about adding white space. I think it's really, really important. So how do you fill a gap? So if you have a couple-year gap, I mean, anything under a year is not a big deal. If it's been over a year, if you haven't worked since 2021, you probably need to do something. You've got to show something, what you've done. So there are a couple examples. You could put a job title down that says community leadership, or consulting if you've done some consulting, or continuing education if you went back to school, maybe to get an MBA or to get a second undergraduate degree. You could put down continuing education, and you tell us what you're doing. It tells us what's happening. You want to be sure to add a few bullet points. It tells people what you've done. So if you've done consulting works, even if it's pro bono for free for a nonprofit, put that down. Let people know. It shows that you're doing something in your field. Very, very important. You can list volunteer work and leadership. And if you've gotten any new certifications while you've done it under continuing education, you've achieved the following certifications. So here's an example on how you can do that. And this will be on the resume that we pass out in a little while. You'll see from 2019 to present, this is from a couple of years ago. Community Leadership and Consulting served as a panelist and coach for the Dallas Practice Interview Team to help job seekers with their interview skills. Okay, so you're showing how you're helping other people, and then provided consulting services to a local nonprofit on how to prepare job interviews and how to evaluate the candidates. Now, the local nonprofit happened to be a church, but she didn't want to get herself thrown out by saying it was a church, because what if she was going to a different organization, some other who maybe was non-secular, so she just put out a local nonprofit. Keep it as generic as possible. If you're helping the OU Alumni Association and you put that on your resume, anybody who went to UT is probably going to go, nope, I'm going to look for somebody else. Okay, so you don't, you just want to put down, if you're helping, instead of helping the OU Alumni Association, you were helping an educational alumni association, because you don't want any reason for somebody to go, nope, let's look at the next resume. All right, so let's look at the key components of a resume. Number one, you've got to have a good header. You've got to have a summary, and we'll show you that in a second. Key accomplishments is an optional area, and this is primarily if you're in sales, but I'll tell you why I like it and don't like it in just a second. Also, some technical people may want to put their technical skills right here to the key accomplishment. Technical skills, if you've got Python, C++, and some other skills, to make sure that if that's relevant to the job, you put that up there. All right, you can go to professional experience, prior relevant experience, we'll show you that, your education, and then list your software skills. All right, for your header, the name that you want to be called. You don't have to put your full name. Oh, excuse me. You don't have to put your full name. You don't have to put your legal name. But put whatever it is you want to be called. My name is Jeffrey, but I go by Jeff. So I'm going to have Jeff Morris on there. Now, if I have a hard to pronounce first or last name, I recommend after you put the name there, in parentheses, put the phonetic spelling of how to pronounce your name. Make it easy for somebody to go, well, I'm not going to call this person because I can't pronounce their last name, but by putting it on there, you've gone, oh, okay, here's how they, they understand it's a tough name. Let me, they probably get butchered to them all the time, but let me give it a shot because I can see phonetically how to call them on there. You want your phone number? You don't have to put phone : in your phone number. If somebody can't figure out it's your phone number or your email address, do you really want them calling you or emailing you? Okay, they should figure out, and they should know what those look like. Dallas, Texas, zip code. You do not need your city street address. That's not important. This is not a legal document, okay? Your email address and your LinkedIn profile. And you want both of those on there so people can contact you, make it easy. Now, when you're using Microsoft Word and you type it in, it automatically makes it a hyperlink. You want to remove the hyperlink, okay? I recommend you remove the hyperlink because when you have that hyperlink with the blue line underneath it, if you had any letter that went down like a lowercase j, a lowercase g, or a y, it matches with that line, and some ATS systems won't be able to read it. Some ATS systems can't read hyperlinks. So keep everything, remove the hyperlink. To do that, you do a right click on the hyperlink and it'll come up and say remove hyperlink. All right, next you want a summary, which is also sort of a profile about who it is you're doing. So, you want to put down, your summary is not an objective. It's not what you want. You're summarizing your experience in 3 lines or less to the job description. You want to make sure you're using words from the job description. You're using, if they're looking for a business analyst, you want to put down that if you've been a business analyst, you want to put that down. And then you want to have a couple lines telling people what kind of business analyst you are. So if you think about this, we go back a thing here, your name is centered, then underneath your name is the job title that they're trying to fill. Okay, so it's just real important. Then you want to list up to 9 areas of expertise. Now, if I ever interview you, I'm going to say, oh, I see you've got 9 areas of expertise. What are your top 3? Tell me what are the 3 best things that you do? You better not tell me user interface design, developing test plans, and customer-facing roles. Because what I want to know is if those are your best 3, they ought to be on the very top or on the very left-hand side. So top or side for your top 3 things. And make sure that those are things that are in the job description. You pull these keywords out of the job description to make it match. So you have some of these keywords up in your summary statement, and you have it here, and you have it down in your LinkedIn, down in your job descriptions of what you've done. You're going to match keywords several times, and that's what's going to move you up in an ATS system. All right, this is an optional section for key accomplishments. Primarily salespeople do this, sales and business development people. They achieved 120% of sales. They identified new sales opportunities resulting in blah, 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 whatever that is. You want to make sure, you can do this. But as a recruiter, I want to know what company you did this at. So if you list these here as a key accomplishment area, I recommend you also put it down a second time in each of those jobs where you did it, so I can see where you did it at. To me, that's more important, where you did it at, so I have an idea of, your sales budget was $1.5 million. The company only grossed $5 million. You're producing more than a fifth of the company's proceeds, or you're working for an IBM that's $1 billion company. You have a very small, target. It gives me a better frame of reference. So just know if you're going to do that, I would list it in both places. All right, your professional experience. Okay, so here's the first 2 jobs you'll see on somebody's profile. Number 1, you want it to be chronological. People talk about functional resumes, and you can do that. If you haven't worked in 10 or 15 years. Clarissa, who, she's been a stay-at-home mom and she's getting back in, she may want to do a functional resume, but most likely what's going to happen is they're going to want to see it. They're going to want to see some kind of chronological resume because they want to be able to we're all used to seeing current job, the next job after that, the next job after that, the next job. That sort of gives us our reference on how you're advancing and what you're doing in your job careers. Number two, you've got to be sure to use parallel verbs. We talked about this earlier, using the proper tenses of verbs. So here, everything in red is in current tense. Analyze, ensure, serve. Everything underlined in blue is past tense. Achieved, engaged, translated. So all your past jobs, the tenses need to be past tense. Now you can have both of them in your current job, because maybe you worked on a project a year ago that's over and you achieved, a 50% improvement, whatever it is. That's a past tense. So that's why you can use both in your current job. But other than that, keep them current. Be sure to, I think you should include a one-line description of the company. There are millions of companies out there. I've been doing this 14 years, and every Friday when the North Dallas group, when people go and post target companies, there's always one company that I have never, ever heard of and have to go look up. So I always recommend underneath company, comma, city, comma, state, and then the dates you worked over in the justified right. Underneath there, put one line just explaining what the company does. I think you'll be helping the recruiter a little bit, because they're not going to know everything. Now, yeah, let me stop on that. You want to make sure you limit the number of bullets per job. 5 or 6 are the most current, 4 or 5 for the next one, 3 to 4 if you're going down job 3, 2 to 3 after that. And like I said, for prior relevant experience, you can list 1 maybe for a company if it's relevant to what you're applying to do. And you've got to make sure that all of your results that all of your bullet points focus on results. Very, very important. So once again, the details for job experience, limit bullet points to 5 to 6, focus on results. Your bullets should not sound like a job description. Okay, so the first one here, engage client to gather software requirements, ensure alignment with development teams. So what? Tell me some results. You engaged hundreds of clients a month. So you've now given me some meat that tells me what it is you've done, to work with, development teams, with 6 different development teams over something. Give me some detail here. So one of the things that every bullet point has to have a result. So I like to play something called the so what game. So here was somebody who went and said, well, I guided the next phase of brand evolution for a multimedia artist and managed film production and publishing. So what was the result? What did you get out of it? Oh, well, I increased the business opportunities, which led to 10 new commissions for my client. So we rewrote the bullet point to say, increased business opportunities, including 10 new commissions for my client based on developing a full social media and PR strategy. So as you can see, from the top bullet point to the bottom bullet point, the bottom one is a lot more effective because it's got some meat. It tells me what it is you can maybe do for me and to help you. What do you do if you've had multiple roles at one company? Okay, so you want to make sure that you list the company name only once, which you see there in the upper left-hand corner, and then you list, and by that company, you list the full list of dates. So in this case, 2010 to 2014 is justified right, covering all the dates. And then the dates for each of the roles that you had while you worked at company B are listed underneath next to the job title. Okay, if you were to list those dates justified right over by where the red arrow is, you're going to confuse me because I'm going to go, oh, you were there for 2 years, you were there for 2 years, you were there for a year. Oh, you're a job hopper. Wait a second, 2014, do they have 2 different jobs here? What's going on? So this is the way I highly recommend you do it. It makes it easy for that recruiter or hiring manager to read. What happens if companies have changed names? All these companies are changing names. It's happening all the time, over and over and over again. So option 1, is give the current name of the company followed by the old name, XYZ Company, formerly ABC. Or you can give the old name of the company with possible the date of the M&A. ABC Company acquired by XYZ in 2008. Okay, so those are the two ways that I recommend to do things. I just think that it really works well in this fashion. I got on Facebook, a question pops up. Even when I was laid off from a company and got rehired almost a year later. No, if you were laid off from a company, you have a company end date, and then you need to list that company again a second time, starting with a new date. So, I mean, you know, I don't recommend you put months on there, but if your job ended in 2019 and then you got rehired in 2020, to me, that's a new job. You don't put you've got to list it as a separate job on there. All right. Oh, let me back up for just 1 second. Just a little story here about, you know, old company names. There was a gentleman several years ago who used to work for Campbell Soup. Campbell Soup, you know, they have a big plant. I think it's out in Tyler or out 20, somewhere out East Texas. And it was bought by another company, and then it's been bought a second time by another company with another different name. And the person says, you know, so what should I do? Because, you know, the company names. I said, I would put down Campbell Soup, because that's what we all know. We all know what Campbell Soup is. That's a name brand. And it was acquired by XYZ Company in 2012 or whatever it was. That makes it easier for people to understand, because especially if you worked there when it was Campbell Soup in the old days, which in this case he did. All right, education and software, you want to list your degrees, just the degree, the major, the school, the city, state. You don't have to say what year you did it, unless you've got your MBA last year, unless you just finished a degree, a BA, BS last year, and AS. You know, if you got something in the last year or two, you may want to list, you know, put the date down. But other than that, you don't have to list any dates. You want to list software skills. If the software skills are listed on the job description, make sure those software skills are listed here on your resume, because that's going to allow the ATS system to match, for the ATS to be able to match your resume to the job description. If you don't have a degree, write something like this: school, comma, city, comma, state, dash, whatever the area of concentration is, and then put in parentheses X number of hours, 90 hours, 60 hours. Or you could put scheduled to complete in 2024. You know, if, you know, it sort of tells that you're currently going to school right now and you're scheduled, you know, you're due to complete in 2024, due to complete in 2023 if you haven't gotten it yet. So that's how I would recommend you doing that. All right, so what I want to do now is I want to take a look at a resume. I want to take a look at a job description. And what I recommend you do is grab a yellow highlighter or whatever color your fancy is, grab something and take that job description and highlight what you think are the important words. What do you want to cover? What do you want to make sure that you think that this is what they're looking for on their profile? So then what you do is you take your resume and you go, do I have those words on my resume? So business analyst, that's what the job title is. I call myself a business analyst because that's what I've done. Okay, so that's on there a couple times. They're looking for somebody with business requirements. So I'm making sure that I mention those same words in that same order so it shows up okay. Improving processes. That's one of the things I put as my area of expertise. Cross-functional, cross-functionality, making sure I use some of those same words. You know, Agile, Scrum, Visual Studio, multiple sources, user manuals. I'm making sure that I'll highlight those things on here so that the resume is going to match. As you can see here, you can keep on going. So there's lots of options here. Now, there is a program out there called jobscan.co. Jobscan.co. It's a free program. You can use it 5 or 6 times a month until, you know, otherwise they want you to buy it to use it. What it will do is you punch in your resume, you punch in your job description, and then it will go and say, you have a 40% match. You have a 60% match. Nobody has an 80 or 90% match. I wouldn't try to do that. If you're in the 60s and 70s, you're doing better than most people on a match. I'm actually going to have a speaker from jobscan.co giving a presentation to the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group on a Friday morning. It'll be on Friday, March 10th. So somebody from JobScan will be with us to talk about how her program works. And it's the same little keyword. It's the same thing that ATS systems use, except they're showing you what's matching and what you maybe should add. All right, so let's remember a couple things. Keywords are very, very important in your resume. That's what drives the applicant tracking system. That's what drives LinkedIn searches. You're matching keywords. Is how well does your resume match the job description? Please remember, resumes are scanned. They are not read. And as Kathy said, they may even be read by the hiring manager, but the hiring manager is probably maybe the first person who actually sits and reads the entire resume. But they're scanned. And job people, they maybe only spend 7 to 10 seconds looking at a resume. It's real quick because what are they doing? They have 100 resumes to look through, 200 resumes to look through. They're going to go through them trying to weed out whatever. So as soon as they see a mistake, as soon as they see something, they go, no, this doesn't grab me, this doesn't match, this doesn't catch, they're on to the next resume. A resume will not get you a job, but what it will do is it will get you a phone call. Remember, practicing your interviewing skills, very, very important, because that's what's going to get you your next job when you're talking with the hiring manager. And you never know why they called. Be sure to ask them. You never, ever know what was of interest. So when you do get that phone call, oh, thank you very much for calling. So can you tell me what was it about my resume or what was it about my LinkedIn profile that made you reach out? I'm really excited about this opportunity. Find out from them what's important. It could be something buried on page 2, or in Kathy's case, page 3 or 4, that was of interest because that's what they need you to do. So that's a really, really great question to ask any recruiter when they call up. And anytime you're in an interview, be sure to ask them, so what are the 3 or 4 most important things you need me to do in this job? Because what hiring manager A wants you to do could be different than what person B and person C who interviews you, what they think is important. So it's always good to ask. All right, well, I don't see, no one turned in a resume for us to look at. So I guess my question right now is, I can stop sharing here. If anybody has any questions, I'll be glad to ask. Oh, I'll tell you what, I need to put in the chat window. Let's see here, copy of the resume for everybody so you all can see the resume that's here. Let's see here. And I'm also going to put in a T cover letter that you can possibly use if you're sending a resume in. Not everybody uses a T cover letter, but I think it's definitely worthwhile to have. For those people on Facebook, I'll give you an email address that you can send me an email and tell me what you're looking for, and I'll be glad to get you all those documents. Anybody have any questions? Going once, going twice? This is just a good basic resume that you can talk about. All right, well, here's the address if you'd like to get if you were not able to download the documents that I put in the chat window for those on Facebook, you can just send me an email at resume@careerdfw.org, resume@careerdfw.org, and I will be sure to send the documents. I'll send all 5 of these documents that I have to you.
Hey, Jeff, somebody put a resume in the chat. Adair Claycomb.
Did they? Let's see here. I didn't see.
Resume for review. It was back at the beginning of the meeting.
Okay. Oh, there we go. All right. All right. Hold on. Let me save it here and then we'll open it up. Okay. Hold on. Thank you very much. I'll try to keep an eye on the chat. I guess I didn't. All right. Let's see here. Let me open it back up. And let me share this with everybody. All right, let's see here. Let's view this. Let's view a single page here. Going to move a few things around on my screen so I can see it. Okay, regulatory affairs specialist. Personally, I'm not a fan of small letter uppercase. I know some people do, that's fine. I would not, as an ATS system, probably is not going to be able to handle this bolding that's here. Not the bolding, the background blue. That's fine. Professional profile, lead team. This middle section here, if it's in a box, if it's in an ATS system won't be able to handle that. Once again, see the difference of the font here? See how this font is, this has, you know, let me see what this font is called. So this is Optima. So this is a little bit harder font to read than this font because this doesn't have the serifs. This is just Calibri on here, okay? So I recommend you keep everything the same font. It would just work a little bit better. You know, areas of highlights areas, this is fine. The problem is I'm going to want to know where you did this at. So hopefully when I come down here, I'm going to find that on here someplace. And if I don't, I'm going to go, well, where did you do this at? And where did you do this at? And where did you do this at? I think I would, quite frankly, I don't know if it's important to have this section here because you can do this down a little bit farther. Core competencies, communication, team enable, project lead, JSON, Microsoft. Microsoft Office Suite is not a core competency. That's a computer skill. Adobe Acrobat Pro, computer skill, those go at the bottom. I'm not sure what DOORS is. If that's a computer program, I would put it down the bottom. Your core competencies are what you're good at, your skills. So those would be skills maybe from your LinkedIn profile is what I would put it. But if it's a computer program, I would put it down at the very bottom. You know, maybe instead of project lead, project leader, you know, or something to ask a story here. Okay, so here, dates, you know, I would move, let's see, I mean, get this right here, you know, I would move this date all the way over here. You know, you don't need that little line right there. Abbott Laboratories, I would give me one line, tell me what is Abbott Laboratories, but put it over here. Also, I don't think, you know, on your resume, you don't have to have the months. When you fill out a job description, a job application, you do need the months. But when if I was going to put something in, I would just say 2017 to 2020. That's all you need to do. I don't need to know that you were there for 9 months and, you know, 10 months in 2022. Design product development engineer. I would add a space between the slashes because if somebody's doing it, if the ATS is doing a search, if they're doing a search for design, that'll come up. If the space is not there, what's going to happen is unless somebody puts in that exact phrase, if they put in design, it's not going to come up because you're a design / product developer. So I just sort of recommend here, anytime you use a slash, put a space on both sides of it so that the search engine, some search engines will handle it, some won't. And remember, lowest common denominator here, you want to make sure everybody can get to it. Work with department, system primary focus on this. All right, manage 25 assay products within the assay. Okay, support it. I like your use of, you know, you're using action verbs at the beginning of each of these lines. I think that's great. Everything here is in past tense. I like the fact that you highlight it. I mean, you bold them. I think that's really makes them stand out a little bit about what they've done. So you supported the technical team creating files for submissions in the databases. So what? Can you give me some result? Can you tell me how many databases you were dealing with? Can you tell me how many different technical teams you were dealing with? Can you give me some result? Because this sounds like a job description, not something you've succeeded at. Collaborated with regulatory affairs and labeling teams. Provided source files for disc and packing labeling. Can you give me resulting in error-free products in labeling and how many different kinds of products? Just play the so what game. He's reading, so what? So I did this. What was the result? How did I reduce errors? Were things better? Give me something to go there. And I'd go through all these here. You submitted internal products things, but so it sounds like your job description. You were supposed to do that. Tell me what the results were, because I need somebody who does it, but I need to know how you did it. Once again, need a result. Fostered, like I said, I love the words used here at the beginning. Worked on, great stuff. So let's see here. This one's got some details. This one tells me a little bit about what it is you've done. So you created a new program, and what was the result? What did it do? Did it make things go faster, quicker, better? All right, let's see here. Next job, Castle Medical, North Arizona. Like I said, let's move the date all the way over there. You don't have to have the October, just list the years. I put a space between the slashes. I don't know what an LC or an MS operator is. You do. I would maybe spell that out. And then you could put in parentheses what an LC or an MS, put them in parentheses, because the second time you use it, I can go, oh, here's where it was. I don't understand where it is right now. So that may be, I would just sort of what I would recommend, just to sort of tell me what that is. Let's see here, maintain, prepped, assisted. Once again, job description, it doesn't tell me, doesn't give me results. Results sell. I need somebody who can do certain things for me, but I want to know what the if you put results on there, you're a step ahead of everybody else. University of Arkansas, taught lab, great. Education, perfect. Bachelor, BS chemistry, Bachelor of Science. Okay, so this is sub of this, graduate work, University of Arkansas. Related coursework, that's fine. Certifications, whatever. You've got a patent, wonderful. Your name's on a patent, that's great stuff. Like I said, I would go down here because what you do sounds you're dealing with a lot of computer programs. I put a section down here that says, software or something, and gather all those things together. Beside this, and everybody knows Microsoft Office. So tell me what it is, what programs you've used, because I'm thinking here you've used a lot of different programs. You're mentioning one right here on there, but I think it's really, really good. I think, you're getting it. Just give me some results here. I think that'll make things work a lot. It'll work a lot better. All right, let's see here. Oops. Let me go back. I know we're over our time limit here, so I may just share this again. If you're interested and you'd like to get a sample, if you're not able to download the one-page bio, the T cover letter, please just send me an email to resume@CareerDFW, and I'll be sure to get those to you. Just let me know that you're looking for the resume documents. That's all you have to tell me, resume documents. CareerDFW, Career USA, we're putting on training 4 days a week. Hopefully you'll join us tomorrow morning at the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group meeting. We're going to do open forum. We'll talk about whatever it is you would like to talk about. If you live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, please put on your pants and come join us and meet us in person. I'm sure everybody's a little stir crazy after the last few days here in Dallas on the ice and stuff. It's all melting right now, but I'm sure you'd love to get out of the house. So come get out of the house and come join us tomorrow morning, 9:30. We'll talk about whatever it is you want to talk about. We will be on Zoom or Facebook for those living outside the DFW area. Next Tuesday for LinkedIn Tuesdays, we'll do about how to use LinkedIn for job hunting, strategies to get results, and that'll be with Locke Alderson. On Wednesday, for Interviewing Wednesday, we're doing a special guest speaker series right now. Tony Bashira from Babbage and Associates, one of the oldest recruiting firms in the Southwest, will be with us to talk about the 10 biggest mistakes that people make in interviewing. Great presentation. Tony sees hundreds of resumes a week, and he deals with placing candidates all the time. He's going to talk about the 10 biggest mistakes that he sees. This session has been recorded. You will be able to go back and watch it on the CareerDFW Facebook page or the Career USA YouTube channel. On the Career USA YouTube channel, you're going to find over 420 videos. But if you click on playlist, every video that I upload goes into a playlist. You can click on effective resumes, interviewing, LinkedIn, whatever it is. And then don't click on the video, but down below where you see that red arrow, click on view full playlist. Up will come a playlist, and you can go and download and see whichever video you would like to go back and look at your convenience. It will take 2 to 3 hours for YouTube to get this video uploaded. So it will be up there by dinner time if you're interested in going back and watching today's video. If you're not receiving emails about our workshops and you'd like to join the Career USA mailing list, please just send an email to Career USA, the +subscribe@groups.io. You'll never be spammed, but what you will get is the title of the day, the topic of the day, and most importantly, the Zoom link of the day. That way you can open up the email, click on the Zoom link on your cell phone, on your PC, on a tablet, and you'll be able to go right to the event and watch us live. Remember, CareerDFW, we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. I'm a volunteer. All of our speakers are volunteers. Everything I've done over the last 14 years has just been to help you land your next great opportunity. So please consider making a donation when you get your next job. I want to thank everybody for being with us today. And thank you for joining us. And we'll see you maybe tomorrow, hopefully tomorrow morning, hopefully maybe in person. If not, maybe we'll see you one day next week. Thank you, everybody.